We're Peaky Blinders. We're not scared of coppers. If they come for us, we'll cut them a smile each.
Because we're dealing with a 6-part drama, what was it like for you as an actor to be able to immerse yourself in the character and maybe explore him where you don't normally get time to in a feature, for instance?
Yeah, that's the big distinction, I think, really, is having that time to explore the character over 6 episodes and, go quite deep, and show all the character's flaws and vulnerabilities and weaknesses and desires and all of those things gradually. And people have compared it to sort of like the televisual version of a novel, and it kind of is like that. I think television is like that.
And I heard you got to do some interesting research with the Romany Gypsies.
Yeah, they were lovely, and I think they're thrilled that it's being portrayed in a sort of a sort of a realistic and accurate version of their lives and their heritage.
And how did you approach the language? Because we're talking 100 years ago, and language does change through time. So did you want to keep it kind of as historic, or did you want to have to mingle it to make it audiences recognise it more? If you see what I mean?
Yeah, you have to. It has to be authentic, but then it has to be accessible as well. That was the line we had to walk, really. And we wanted to get it right for all the Brummies there, but we wanted to also, people have got people in America are going to watch it, hopefully. So.
The Peaky Blinders were a real thing. They were a gang, and they used to sew razor blades into the peaks of their caps. So that was hence the name. And gangsters in Birmingham were called Peaky Blinders for quite a long time.
And presumably what they did with those razor caps could be pretty horrific.
Well, the clue is in the title, yeah. But yeah, I mean, they were used as weapons, concealed weapons. So.
And when we're going back to Birmingham nearly 100 years ago now, obviously language changes over that period of time. How important was it for you to kind of stay true to the dialect, but also probably keep it current for audiences as well?
Yeah, I mean, getting the Birmingham accent right has eluded virtually everybody for many years in television. But what I went with Cillian, and we spent some time in Birmingham, met people who spoke with the real thing, not the pretend Birmingham accent. And I think what Cillian got was the hardness and the speed of it, and so that worked. But also, we were aware that in Birmingham at the time it was a melting pot, so people were coming from Ireland, they were coming from the provinces, lots of people with different accents, so the accent was still forming. But I think the Dublin accent is a very important ingredient in the Birmingham accent, so there's a bit of an Irish thing going on.
You mentioned working with Cillian as well. You're a creator, you're one of the writers. There's a collaboration there. What was that whole process like for you, working with?
Yeah, I mean, we as the series went on, we had other writers come in to do episodes or parts of episodes, and it was just a question of getting everybody on board and really getting into the project.
And did you work much with the actors, as you did mention working with Cillian?
With Cillian. Only because it was getting Cillian into the character was the thing. Cillian's request. So we spent time in Birmingham, we spent some time with Romany Gypsies, and he was being taught how to ride by this 12-year-old gypsy boy who taught him how to ride gypsy style. So it was great. He really immersed himself into it.
It's an epic story. It's an epic saga, and that was our desire when we took it on was to sort of break away from the standard, period TV stuff that we do well in Britain, but my sense is that it's sort of a lot of it is quite tight and constrained and formulaic, and I wanted to do something much more epic, much more cinematic, and sort of and just take on the Americans, to be frank, because they do it well. And
well, it's an interesting period of British history that's almost gone forgotten, really.
Well, that's what's really exciting, because that's what's really fun about it. For me, as a storyteller, you kind of go, okay, like 12 months ago, if you'd Googled the Peaky Blinders, you wouldn't have seen anything. So you've got a total blank canvas. Birmingham, the city, has been flattened by the bombers or by the planners. So you get to choose the whole city, you get to choose the clothes, you get to choose the haircuts, you get to choose the whole thing and create this whole mythology. And we don't do that in this country. We're very sort of shy about our history. We're very kind of reserved about it. And the Americans just kind of go, boom, this is us. This is the mafia. This is the president. This is the prime minister. This is what they go for it and they shout loud and. And we've done that. It's an epic western. It's an epic gangster movie.
And from what I can see as well, a character-driven story as well. And you've got characters that are we don't see them before the war, but they will obviously had a certain life before the war. Then they've come back from World War One, and then we see them potentially damaged from that as well. So has it been interesting for you as a director to follow the character arc of how these people have evolved really because of the circumstances that they were in?
Totally. I mean, I was much more interested in the character arcs than I am in the historical arc. You know, I mean, that's what excited me about it. You know, these amazing characters come back from untold. Well, I mean, I can't even imagine what they come back from, you know, and seeing those characters and seeing how they're affected, and also just the length of the story, you know, 6 hours to really unravel and the slow burn. I mean, like Cillian's character, I don't think he says like one word in the first 5 minutes. I mean, it's like Clint Eastwood, the man with no name. He just rides into town, and just that, it's just gorgeous doing that slow burn. But yeah, for me, it's about the drama, it's about the stories, much more. I mean, the history it's lovely. That my take on it is it's terrific if it's a true story, but that's not an excuse for lazy storytelling. You know, so you know, you almost want to put at the end, by the way, that was a true story. You know, so you know, it should stand up on its own, whether it's true or not.
She is the woman who's been running the gang. Polly has been running the gang as the boys have been away in the First World War. The gang being in charge of betting in Birmingham in the 20s in the slums, and she comes in as Cillian's character and Cillian's brother return and start taking back the reins of power. So she was great fun. I mean, the Peaky Blinders, as you know, had these peak caps with the little razor blades. Aunt Polly has a large, long and very sharp hat pin. Brilliant. Such good fun. Such good fun.
And the interesting thing here as well is that the boys are coming back. They've come back from World War One. Obviously, they're affected in some way, but also from a woman's point of view, it emancipated women, the war, in ways that we would never have imagined. So was that interesting, exploring that period of how things changed for women and how we had to survive?
Yeah, it is. I mean, to a large extent, working class women work and still work in whatever society because you have to. They don't have the sort of salaries coming in from husbands that means that you both can stay at home. My great-grandma was a cleaning lady, and you know, both of them, but she cleaned pubs, he worked in the steel in the docks in the Clyde. You know, they both had to work. So for middle class and upper class women, this was revolutionary. I think working was never that revolutionary for the working class, hence the name. But yes, as far as actually the sharing responsibility and the unification of those women, that was what was important. Those women got to meet and they got to start to talk, and particularly after the Second World War, it changed the face of society as the society. I mean, we still haven't got it now, but it started the long road to equality.
And with regards to the characters, we're talking about gangsters. They're obviously going to be up to no good. So how difficult is it for an actor to make these characters sympathetic and to bring an audience on board to like them?
Well, I think what's interesting is whatever story you're telling is the tone. And what really interested me when Steve and Otto approached me about this is instead of doing what British television does very, very well, which is socio-realism that was based in, you know, the films of Cares and everything, beautifully done. He said, no, I'm going to show a world of struggling people, but I'm going to shoot it like a Western. These people see themselves as heroes. These people are epic. They're not self-pitying. They don't think, oh my God, if only I'd had a different education, I'd have loved to be, you know, an optician. You know, they are the heroes. We are all the heroes, is our own story. Obviously, Dostoevsky said that, not me, but you know what I mean. And
But they're survivors.
So yes, and the way that he's shot it is epic and beautiful, and with the white stripes and Nick Cave, you know, they are sexy, interesting people. So when it came to playing a gangster, instead of playing it with that background of worrying of why the motivation here, there, that comes in later. But at the beginning, what he wanted was bold brushstrokes. Well, I hope he did. I'm about to see it. I might be out there by myself. Everyone else doing very detailed work. Who's Daffy Duck in the corner? Oh, that'll be me.
Well, I read it and I fell in love with the idea of it. I fell in love with the scope. Just the writing is beautiful, and I fell in love with the strong women. You know, I like to present myself as a strong woman in this world, and I was, you know, you work as an actor as much as you can, but you often are disheartened by, you know, what's on offer for you if you are a certain stereotype. And when I read it, that was it. I was like, this is me, and I want it. So I fought hard for it, and here I am, and I'm very proud to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit more about who you're playing and what, apart from her strength, what else resonated with you, really?
I think she embodies everything that it is to be a woman. You know, you have incredible strength, and you have incredible fragility and kindness, and you know, she's so emotionally deep on so many levels, and that's the beauty of the best parts, is that you get to play an array of different things, and you know, be a very complicated human being, but still try to make people like you and care for you and want to root for you, want to follow your story through to the end. So hopefully I somehow did that.
Was it interesting for you as well to explore an era of British history that actually we don't normally know about, actually?
Yeah, I think that was one of the appeals as well, is that it was dealing with a subculture that I think is very relevant today. You know, it's you know, they're descendants of Romani gypsies. You have the problem with the settlers here now, you know, and you have a lot of gang culture in London, and I think, you know, the through line is that what people don't like sometimes is to have to think about the society in which we live and wonder how it got to where it is. And at that time, you know, it was the end of the First World War. You know, hundreds and thousands of men went to war and didn't come back. And when they came back, nothing much had changed, and they weren't hailed as heroes. They weren't maybe looked after. So it's a dissatisfied youth, and you know, that's the problem we encounter now. You know, a dissatisfied youth, and I think people don't like to highlight those bits about society that are difficult. And it's also it's a rogue time. It's a wild time, and I think that makes it cool and sexy and relevant.
There's something different about Peaky Blinders. There's something, you know, it's not come out yet, but in the air, there's this sort of energy about it, and that was there right from the beginning, so I'm really chuffed to be a part of it.
And talking to Annabelle and Helen a little earlier on, all these women seem particularly strong.
Yes.
So that must have been something that was attractive to you.
Yeah, hugely. You know, as an actress and as a woman, it's really important to me to play strong female characters, not ones that are just soft and, you know, waving a rose back and forth in the background. You know, they're feisty and they're gutsy, and it's told from their perspective. And that's why Steve Knight writes these women brilliantly. You know, they're not second fiddle to anyone. So it was lovely to get a part like that. Is just one in a million.
And we're dealing with the men coming back from World War I,
Yeah.
which obviously their lives have changed dramatically, but also it must have changed for women too.
Hugely. You know, I think that we had never sort of known something this destructive to come into the family environment before, and these men were taken away, completely removed from their environments, and the women had to step up and take over. And I think they realised for the first time they were given liberties, that they could do a man's job. And so then when the boys came back, you know, there was this sort of discord of saying, well, we can be strong, and we proved that we were strong, and we fought to protect our family life, you know. So there was a complete upheaval socially at that time.
We're entering into Gangland Birmingham, so it's something that we haven't seen really on British television before. So does that make it all the more refreshing for you as an actor?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, we don't see the Midlands enough on the telly, and to have it set in Birmingham, you know, with its history, and you know, they're all authentic stories. The writer's family were in this gang, you know, and it's really lovely to see it all brought to life. Yeah.
Does this bring a sense of realism, because it is based on fact? These people and this gang did exist. Does that make it even more grounding as a story? Do you think, to make it more realistic?
It's a great starting point, isn't it? Like, you know, they're authentic stories, and that always, you know, helps. You know, you think, well, this is stuff that really happens. You know what I mean? And so historically, it's kind of interesting as well. It's interesting on a sort of historic level as well. You know what I mean? And
then the language often, you know, is setting back nearly 100 years ago. So the language obviously has changed a lot. How did you all approach the language and the dialect?
I kind of did. Oldie Cockney, as I understand ye oldie Cockney, sort of like how my granddad might have, you know what I mean, how he spoke. You know.
They were amazing, and you know. Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Reports Call for the 6:15 TV preview of Peaky Blinders in NFT1. Will ticket holders now kindly start tickets as the doors are now open?
Thanks.
As ticket holders for this evening's TV preview
Better go.
Peaky Blinders in NFT1, please now start tickets.